You're listening to WKDW live on Facebook streaming and Real Talk as we progress with the radio station update. Things are moving in the right direction. We've got a lot going on with what we're doing there. There's going to be more great news as we develop the station and bring it back into the real world of communications. So stay tuned in the very near future for more updates on that. I've got a very special guest in the house. Super excited about this, Mister, I guess, Joe Fussell, Captain Joe Fussell, good friend. Gosh, how long have we known each other, Joe?
Gosh, I'd say, my gosh, 6 to 8 years. Probably
Weren't
six
you?
to 8 years.
Were you at the high school?
No, I was never at the I never assigned at the high school. But I was always involved in the community, and I go down to the radio station often. And back in the day with Rich Suggs, Dave Krieger,
Yeah.
most recently, yeah.
So you've been around, you've been in the mix, and last week we had a grant writer on, and she was super special. And you were just saying that you were doing grants. How does that affect the police department when you're focused on grant writing and doing different things there?
So we actually work really close with Jennifer Sedonis and Val over at the city grant writing team. So they actually oversee all the grants in the city. And Jennifer Sedonis, she's wonderful. She's really good at what she does. She helps us write grants for the police. So what ends up happening is, we find a grant, and we're the subject matter experts, and we'll come up with the information that we provide Jennifer Sedonis and Val, and then they submit the grant. So, we work hand in hand very well together.
That it's kind of funny how that worked out, because last week that was a surprise to have her on. It was a last minute sign in, and to me it was fun because while we understand grants are an important part of what we do, the toughest side of things is that we never know how effective they are. And she said that they had $4 million worth of grant writings that they had already accomplished for this year, which is crazy good as far as our community should be concerned, right?
Oh, it's outstanding. Yeah, we have she helped write it. She actually wrote the grant. She's spearheaded it for 10 officers, and it was 1.25 million for salaries and benefits. So it's great. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
And I said they already paid for their salaries already, and now you're telling me that they're helping cover salaries for our officers too, right?
Well, that grant had to be for new hires. It couldn't be for existing officers, but the city has completed a strategic plan through a partner to find out, is an analysis essentially, to find out how many officers we need to grow every year as it relates to the population growth and the number of incidents that occur in our city. So we're looking at trying to put 15 to 25 officers new every year. And that grant obviously covers 10 of them. So it reduces essentially reduces the increase in the budget for the years to come. But we just can't use it for existing positions. It's cool.
We actually learned that last week too, with a lot of things. Grants are kind of forward thinking type projects versus the maintenance side of things. So it's harder to get those. And not to drag Wormhole Springs into this, but the Wormhole Springs project has a lot of new stuff, but it has a lot of the maintenance stuff too. So she was explaining that side of it.
Right.
Going through that process, though, it's kind of cool to see how these different departments layer on top of each other. And without them, it would be more difficult to have new hires and do different things, wouldn't it, with the budget constraints?
I'd say so. I could tell you the 14 and a half years I've been here, we've grown so much. With with all these different city departments, Jerome Fletcher, our city manager, is doing a phenomenal job with our city,
Right.
and he's creating better efficiency within our departments and how we work with other departments. And grant writing specifically, I used to be the patrolman that maybe assigned to the midnight shift, and I'd be writing the grants kind of as an ancillary responsibility on my own time, and trying to write it and write the grants in my patrol car in my driveway at home. Now we have a grants division, and their ROI is huge. Millions of dollars they're bringing in to the city. They're professional. They know what they're doing. They're trained. They go to the conferences, and it's just so beneficial for the city. And I see that across the board with so many different opportunities that we have that has just frankly increased the efficiency of the city altogether.
And knowing that you have that isn't a plan that kind of comes together. When you get these grants and they get acknowledged, those are like add-ons to your year, right?
They are add-ons, and not just add-ons with whatever the equipment might be or the staffing, but the add-on too is responsibilities. Like we have, Jen Sedonis helps us achieve FDOT grants every year that we can do traffic enforcement on certain roadways that have construction, and we're talking $100,000 plus, right? So
Right.
but we have to track our statistics, our hours, our pay, and let me tell you that one of our traffic officers, I used to oversee the grant paperwork with this. We'd have to get paycheck stubs. We'd have to make sure that they're paid properly. They can't comp the time. They have to be paid out the time. So they're very strict rules that we have to, on the back end, be like, okay, this is good money for our city to be able to increase our enforcement. But on the back end is going to be just as much work that we're going to have to put in to make sure that we're being very responsible with the finances and the time and the allocations.
Well, just a reminder to the listening audience and the watching audience on Facebook and YouTube, if you have any questions for Captain Fussell, please just text them in and we'll post them. We'll get your answers right away. This is a great opportunity for you to connect with our police department. I kind of want to switch gears here a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about our drone division.
Okay.
I find that to be a really special division for the future, let alone today. Things are changing in the world of policing all the time, and we're trying to stay on top of the future, right?
We are.
And that drone division is a big player for the future of Northport, isn't it?
It sure is. We're really fortunate to have the program that we have. Chief Garrison was really forward thinking when he launched this our drone program. I think it started out with one or two drones and maybe 3 operators, and now we have a whole drone team. We have drone operators on every shift, day shifts, night shifts, our criminal investigations, and we have, I want to say, 7 to 10 drones now. And these drones go on thousands of missions throughout the year. Not only does it help our police department, it helps the taxpayers, Sarasota County. It's so much cheaper to fly the drone out than pay for the helicopter. I don't know how much per hour, thousands of dollars per hour, and fuel and maintenance and staffing. These drones are highly effective. We can deploy them right on the roadside. And operate them through our real-time crime center, and on top of that, some of our specialty units have drones that help to fly the drone in dangerous situations rather than sending an individual where we could get hurt.
Well, we've had our fair share of national press, even on the manhunt side of things, being able to cover 104 square miles. If we were doing that, wouldn't a drone be more advantageous than even the helicopters flying around on the level of I guess cost effectiveness.
Yes, yes, these drones do have a lot of capabilities that helicopters do. They got the infrared, the FLIR, that the helicopters that we rely on with the helicopters. In the Bryan Laundry Search, out in the Carlton Reserve, we had a lot of drones operating out there as well, and they were doing the same thing, and they would operate at a bigger radius. We'd had the different federal agencies in with these drones to help, supplement our manpower in the search. It does help. It's a great tool. The helicopter has its functions as well. I don't think the drones will ever overtake the helicopter, but it definitely it's good. It's a good resource to deploy right away. Yeah, what you're going to end up seeing in the future too is you're going to have a patrol officer. We're not too far out from this. You'll have a patrol officer on a call at somebody's house, and then there's a 911 call 2 streets over. A drone will automatically lift out of the light bar, go over and lay eyes on the 911 call to get dispatch a view on what's going on over there, so they can relay that to the officers that are responding. So there's so much advancement coming in the future that these drones really are helping our response as law enforcement to these calls for service.
And I don't want to drag the new building into it, but the truth about the new building was it was gearing up for the future. It was setting us up for success down the road. A lot of people don't really understand the drone side of things. Um, that's a major player for the future. And we're not. Are we at full man strength right now? I don't think we are. Are we?
I think there's, don't quote me, but maybe 7 or 8 positions that don't have a name attached to it. Um, but our recruiting is actively, working really hard to fill all those positions. It's just a lengthy process. We have, some positions on the road. We want to invest in our community, so we hire individuals from our community and put them through the cadet program, and it takes, months upon months to get them trained and get them out on the road. So, with attrition and all that going on, it does take time.
Well, I like how you said that too, because we're kind of hiring within our community and working through the system. But technology helps us in this regard of having those spots down right now. Technology does speed things up. Whether it be the drones out there helping the officers protect themselves or protect other citizens. You've got the dogs that we utilize, and different aspects of an officer's daily life. Um, there's a lot of different moving parts that we utilize for advanced, I guess, protections of the citizens, isn't there?
Yeah, you're absolutely 100% right. We have so many different tools and resources, and I commend our Chief Garrison and Deputy Chief Morales for their forethought into the growth of the city. We have a lot of agencies, other law enforcement agencies like the Sheriff's Department, and other agencies that come here to see some of the stuff that we do here, like our real-time intelligence center. And that is just cutting edge information that we're able to produce, um, you know, intelligence to our existing cases, or anything that might happen, so we can solve them a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently. We have the real time intelligence center. We have cameras. We have our canine unit, our drones, all of these advanced tools that we have that we can deploy out there to help provide a positive resolution to these cases. Ultimately, what we want is we want people that know that if they come to Northport, we're going to be on our game, and we're going to solve that crime, or catch them red-handed, before they're able to even leave our city. We have crime analysts that are on top of the information, not only throughout locally, but the state of Florida as well as federally. So if there are any trends that we see coming down this way, you know, um, we can get ahead of it. We can not predict, but we can take an educated guess and say, okay, we see this trend coming down this way. What can we do? What can we deploy? So I commend the chiefs on having that forethought that they can say, hey, we want to stay in front of this and keep our community safe. We do a really good job with that.
Well, and I'm going to point something out too that people may or may not be aware of. We had a group of people come up from, I think it was the Cape Coral area, do some donuts in the middle of Price Boulevard and Toledo Blade, and I believe that we actually got them, didn't we?
There were some we did get some of them, and we are continuously monitoring people we believe that were in that intersection. Did that intersection take over? It's a group. It's a car group,
Sure.
and we're monitoring them, and not only within our unit, but the different fusion centers around and intelligence centers. We all share the information to see if, hey, it's coming up. There's a license plate reader system. You can drive through a toll booth and you're hitting license plate readers, right? So we're monitoring people throughout the state that they're bouncing around. So they come in this area and it alerts all of our officers that are operating in their cars that, hey, this car is driving into the city. And then you'll have officers that kind of gravitate to that area, whether it could be an amber alert, it could be a silver alert, and it could be some of these other nefarious actors that we want to be tracking.
Again, we're talking advancement in technology
Correct.
over the years, because the old card or the old readers from 10 years ago, that technology has definitely improved today. You're getting a much more instant response, aren't you?
Yeah, it's right away. Yeah, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. We get so much information, it's like it's almost information overload. So we have to flag what what we feel is important for being alerted. Obviously, the amber alerts and silver alerts, stuff like that, is something that we would want to know about quickly. But these alerts, the information is coming instantly. We have a number of different programs with local businesses that we partnered with local businesses to help give us access to
Yep.
their video systems in their inside and outside of their establishments. So if there's an incident in a certain area, we can just log right into their the cameras and know what we're driving into.
How is that different than when you first became an officer?
Oh goodness. Yeah, I was just telling my wife recently. I don't think we even had email or text. We didn't have like we had Nextel phones, no text messages and emails. You couldn't check your emails at home. You had to go to work and check an email. Man, imagine those days again. Now we are so driven by technology. We get emails and texts and phone calls day and night. It's just completely different now than it was when I started. But I tell you, the invention of the cell phone really upped our business. It's easier to call 911. It's easier to take pictures of crimes. And we've developed, and kind of moved along with the development of the iPhones that we were able to, you can text a video into our dispatchers or a picture so that you can say, okay, this is what's going on right now, and it gives us a better way. We're not moving in blind, and it gives us more information to be able to make a safe approach.
So I'm going to stick with there for a second with the blind comment, because I'm going to go right back to the drones for a second. That technology on a safety scale for our officers. Can you talk about how they feel about having the drone overhead when they're or going into a area of potential harm for them, maybe ahead of time? Can you talk about how that interaction is with your police officers?
Sure. Well, we can, if we did a building search, we could send a drone in and fly through the building. And, if we thought there was an armed, individual inside that building, they, rather than getting in a shootout with an officer, the drone's going to be able to see them and feed information back to the officers that's real time without anybody getting hurt. I think that's really important. We're using that more and more. It's almost like the bomb robot. You get the bomb robot goes up to the house. Rather blow up the bomb robot than somebody else getting hurt. So it's a no-brainer. We love the technology in that aspect. It really does help us keep safe.
You know, the safety side of things for police officers and even firemen, because a lot of times you go on joint calls together. That's essential right now. Not right now. I shouldn't say right now, but it's always been part of it. But having these different tools now, it would seem to me it's not a letdown of the guard, but it also enhances what you're doing. It kind of gives you that um, more secured feel, I guess.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
and so, do you see our success rate higher because we've taken over this new technology and embraced it?
I do. I do, especially with missing persons. We deploy our drones for missing persons, missing, elderly that have dementia or, missing child. We always deploy the drones for that, and that really does help. But it's all the tools. It's funny if you're on scene of a missing person or someone that ran away. The canine unit and the drone team, they always have a friendly competition who's going to be able to track them first. But at the end of the day, we have all these resources that if one isn't successful, then another resource would be successful. So it really does work hand in hand. And as a member of our executive staff, it's just it's a pleasure to see. It's a pleasure to see all those resources work together.
What what's the most difficult scene you've been involved in your career?
Oh gosh, I tell you, one thing that weighs on me is seeing innocent people get hurt. It's really unfortunate. Most of the time it's avoidable. So I pray that people stay careful. They take care of each other, but seeing innocent people get hurt, whether it's a car crash or you know something that might not have been intentional.
Right. Well, and so you and I have a little bit in common with the car crash side of things because way back I worked a level one trauma center grant in downtown Columbus, Ohio, and you know with a level one trauma center, uh, we see the inward movement of patients. You see them at the crime scene, and or not just crime scene, but at the accident scene. Um, talk about 75 all the time, which is very similar to the Indy 500 at times. Just trying to get people to slow down, keep it under 100. I think we've got a new law that kind of went into effect or is coming into effect with excessive speed, aren't we?
Yeah, I saw the governor signed um, legislative changes for July 1st. I haven't dug into every one of them. I'm not, unfortunately, I spend more time at my desk than I do on the interstate.
Right.
But yeah, I did see the enhancement of,
I
I
think
think it
it's
was 50
20
miles
miles.
an hour.
Is it 20 miles an hour over?
It was something that made it a court date, or it enhanced the penalties to it to help keep
Yeah.
everybody safe. Yeah.
And that's not all. That's not a bad thing. There excessive speed on 75 on our main thoroughfares in our city, that it can be very dangerous. We've got one of the youngest communities in Northport or in Florida, with Northport being I think we're like 52 or 54 average age.
Right.
We've got a lot of youth in our community. Um, just it's time that our community settles down. We're almost over 100,000. Um, take care of the streets. You guys do a great job of that. Um, the policing of our local areas. Have you seen that increase with crime since we've grown, or do you think we've maintained our status?
I think we've been growing with the population. We've been growing our staff. We've been monitoring our response times. We have key performance indicators that we want to make sure that we're below on our response times. and we have different priority level calls that we want to make sure that, we're responding to. If someone calls 911, they have someone breaking into their house. Obviously, that's going to be the highest priority. We want to get out there as soon as possible. So we monitor our responses to make sure that as the city grows, we are maintaining, if not becoming more effective by every day. We're always self-evaluating what we can do better to better serve the public.
And it's funny because when I talked to Chief Titus, they monitor that same thing on response times, and whether it be ambulance runs or actual fire runs, they do different things there too to keep their response times well within the range. And even with Price Boulevard, are you guys evaluating the same as like Chief Titus and his group do with response times and how to be creative on maybe getting through with road closures and different things like that?
We certainly are. Yeah, we certainly are. We want to make sure we maintain staffing in all areas of the city, that if they're with their construction going on, obviously it's a major artery for the, to get from one end of the city to the other. We want to make sure the officers are strategically placed so that if there's an emergency, they can respond in a timely manner. So we absolutely are maintaining and monitoring that.
So let's slide into the more road side things, which is our speed guys. We've got them out there kind of working the roads to make sure our speeds are there. But we also have something newer, which is our motorcycle crew that's out there working the streets. How is that working out for you?
It's great. It's a great unit to have. It brings diversity in traffic enforcement. I see those guys hidden in places that I've never seen a cop, monitoring traffic, and I love it. They're doing a good job. They're staying safe, but it's great. It's a great representation of the city, and it's a diverse enforcement tool that we're really maximizing. We're enjoying that.
And how many do we have in that group?
We have 2 motorcycle officers currently.
So that's a start, right?
It's a start, yes.
Yeah.
And we're happy. We're happy to be here. We're happy to have the 2, and they've wanted. They've worked really hard for a long time to get that opportunity, and we're really excited to have that.
So that has to go back to the city leadership, commissioners and staff and everyone really working hard to bring them in, right?
Oh, absolutely. Chief Garrison and Deputy Chief Morales, they worked really hard for a number of years, and with Jerome Fletcher, they were able to really make it happen. And we're really happy. We're not only does that, but we look at the younger generation who wants to be officers. They look at the different opportunities for growth, for professional growth, and opportunities that way. And the motor unit is one of those opportunities, just like a K9 unit or the drone unit. We want to be diversified, and that's one of the ways.
So you've got K9, you've got drones, we've got the motorcycles. What am I missing? What's out? What else do we have that's newer that's out there?
We have our street crime unit, like a special enforcement team. They hunt down the people with the warrants. They do a great job. We have drone. We have a real-time intelligence center. We have intelligence detectives. We have electronic surveillance unit that works on all our cameras and maintains all of that. We have our criminal investigations. We have advanced investigations team that we have detectives that are members of the Internet Crimes Against Children task force. We also have individuals that are on the FBI task force, the Secret Service task force, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Homeland Security. We have a lot of different opportunities, and each of those opportunities brings a lot of tools into the city of Northport that if we have a crime or an investigation that really could benefit with the use of those tools, we tap into that, and it really benefits our victims in our city.
Here's a question, and you made me think different here for a second. I've known you guys a long time. I've really never asked the question.
Oh boy.
No, it's not that difficult, I don't think. But we go through presidential elections, and does that change when the president changes, when the from Republican to Democrat? Does that how does that affect our organization, or does it?
I think it affects. I think maybe the most I've ever felt it affects grant money, grant opportunities. If it's federal money for federal grants, we've seen it that at that level. But pretty much everything else, where the city leadership maintains the direction, and it really nothing has changed, in my opinion, with regards to the presidency, the national presidency, just because our city leadership is so strong and they're able to move things down the court without influence from the.
So the beautiful thing that you just said was people should really stay focused on their local government, because local kind of affects local, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes
It-
sense. That
yeah.
makes sense. You made me think about that for a second. Alan McEwen, thank you for all the information you bring to our community. So I think that was directed at you more than me, but I know Alan really well, and I think you do too. But
I do too. Yes. Yeah.
thanks, Alan. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, Alan. Yes.
But that this whole thing about this safety and even the local side of things, having a stronger local government really aids our fire department, our public works department, and our police department too. I brag about all of them as often as I possibly can. When you think about where we've been now over 25 years, um, I've been here and I've watched everything kind of develop and grow and take its own little course of action out there into the community. But the one thing I've noticed is that you guys always come back with people are coming to see us and review what we're doing now. There we're like that team that it's played around, and now we figured out how to get ahead, and now all the other players are coming around and looking at us for technology leadership. Do you feel that same way with people coming to look at our police department and how it's run?
I
And
do. Yeah.
I want to go to the efficiency side of things, because what was lost in the vote, and I'll kick that can down the road because everybody else decided to. But we operate in such a small space now, and our efficiencies are off the chain. And I don't know that the public truly understands that we have people in closets, we have people in spaces that weren't designed for offices, right?
Well, yeah. Well, back when I started here as a detective, probably what, 13 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
With this, I remember eating lunch in this room that I'm in now. This was the conference room for our criminal investigations.
Wow.
And now there's just no space. They made it into an office, and it's just an awkward office because it's a conference room. It's not an office. So we've had other conference rooms that we made into two offices. We're growing. On top of it, we're growing. We have the mobile, units that we're having delivered. That opens up different opportunities as other units grow. They need to move out of those units. I'm in my criminal investigations assignment now, and I'm trying to get an extra interview room. Let me ask you this: when you interview somebody, in a car that's maybe a stolen car, there's usually more than one person in that car, right?
Right.
So we have one interview room. We can only interview one at a time. So having two interview rooms, we have to have enough interview rooms how many people can fit in a car? You need to be able to separate everybody and kind of get down to the bottom of it. And so we're always trying to move people around and find out the most efficient way.
So that statement by itself lends to a whole different conversation, because doesn't that put us in kind of like behind the eight ball, because now we're interviewing one at a time, and where do these people go in between interview times?
We just have to be creative, and our staff's been doing a good job on it, but it's something that we need to think about, and that's what Chief Garrison's been thinking about that, and with the design of the new station, that's actually a conversation that we all had with the designer, the architect, on how many interview rooms to have. Another issue that we have here, I have my whole detective bureau here, but one of them is assigned to another substation, and it's hard. They're not all together to be able to have team meetings, or we have debriefs on major cases. I need to find the right place to put our staff, and it's just hard when they're all spread out, because it causes a breakdown in communication. It makes it more challenging. So,
I go ahead. It does. I mean, you like you're presenting this in a different light. Space is one thing, um, but this space that you're talking about is actually keeping crime rate down constructively. That's a different utilization of space. The interview rooms themselves, people don't think of interview rooms; they think of office space for a police department. I don't know how many people have actually toured the inside of a police department to understand what is actually inside of a police department, let alone how it functions.
right.
Um, do you, over your years, have you had that conversation with people? I mean,
I brought people through. Yeah, we've done tours of the police station, and anybody can come down and take a look at the police station and be happy to give you a tour. But it's just a different world. You can't just have a room and call it an interview room. You have to, we have cameras in there, and you can't have anything that could become a weapon. If someone tried to attack one of our officers in that interview room. Um,
soundproofing.
it's soundproofing. Yeah, you don't want somebody in one interview room to hear what the other person's saying in the other interview room, right?
Right, right. That makes it tough. I mean, like, we've got evidence rooms, we've got different things that you have to think about along the way, and then you have a growing staff, and that building space is tough, and I don't know when or if and it's going to happen, but I know the need. That four-letter word, I think it's been in place now for a couple of years, that we've been kind of chopping rooms in half to give an office space to somebody. So I think the citizens need to listen and share this and understand the conversation. It's not a pointing of fingers. It's not a demand. I think everyone needs to share this and get educated. Take a tour. Maybe we should come down and do a live walkthrough tour of the station instead of this. We'll just do a walkthrough tour and show everybody what's happening.
Yeah.
Maybe that's advantageous to the whole conversation. Um, if you're out there listening right now and you've got a thought, an idea, a question for Captain Fussell, let us know. If you need a side table, I'm sure that he can make you a side table. He's been picking on me a little bit to get one made at my house, so I'm going to take him up on that offer. Are you still at the
Yeah.
farmers market?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. You and your wife out there, you
Oh,
kill
yeah.
them, don't you? You love it out there at the farmers market?
I love going on a date with my wife at the farmers market. It's like
Yeah,
the highlight of my week.
you guys truly enjoy that aspect of it, right?
Yeah, we do.
And yet again, it's another way for you to connect to the citizens of Northport.
It is. Yeah, it is. We love our community. We love the people in Northport, and I love working here, and my wife works here too, and she owns her own business in the city, and she does very well.
Well, we also have a retention side of things that I think is something to brag about too. We don't have a high turnover rate, do we?
We really don't. Um, we don't have people. We have more people in the drop program now than ever. People are just retiring. Like, they're getting to the end of their careers. We have someone retiring at the end of this month, as a matter of fact, and We don't have a lot of people that leave the department. We try to treat them like they're part of a family, and I think that's kind of the philosophy of the city too. We take a lot of pride in working for the city of Northport, and we take a lot of pride working for the police department.
And so I'm gonna ask you this, because if we don't have a high retention, and we do have our struggles, we do, and it seems like our struggles aren't with the major things that other major cities have. Our struggles are we don't have enough space for people. We're still trying to figure out our footprint on our 104 square miles, and that 104 square miles is not normal either for a lot of cities. Um, Strategically, you guys have to think about a lot of different moving parts within the growth pattern of the city, right?
We do, and I think we're doing a good job staying in front of it. We monitor that. We have weekly intelligence meetings. We monitor, our statistics of multiple years, and we try to map all of the trends that we're going to see. We have our police officer. One of our captains is on the staff development review for the city. So as the city continues to grow, we're in the loop on that, and we know how that's going to affect our staffing. So I think we're doing a good job keeping our eye on the future to see how we need to change to get in, and not just that, but the chiefs on different committees through the Florida Police Chiefs Association, the FBI National Academy, and they are always sharing trends that they're seeing, throughout the country and throughout the state of Florida, on how it can impact us and how other people are dealing with those trends, and how we can maybe take their ideas and move forward too.
I brag about Frank Lama and trying to keep Frank in Northport. I don't think he's going anywhere.
I love Frank.
Yeah, I love Frank, and you've got Val. Um, we've got so many people in our city that other cities are looking at and trying to duplicate or pull away from us, and yet we don't lose them. One of the key things that Val said last week was that the reason that she knew we were so strong in grant writing was everyone was coming after them.
Uh,
Do you kind of feel the same way with your police officers?
yeah, I mean, I think so. I think we have a lot of agencies that look at what we're doing. We have officers that come here from other departments that they're just blown away with the level of opportunity that we offer here. It's like one that comes to mind is, we have a detective that came from New York City Police Department. He was a detective up in NYPD, and he works for us now, and he's flying all over the country getting child predators that are preying on our kids in our community. And he just, like, the opportunity to make a difference here is just amazing. And I think that we as a team really empower our staff to be able to go out and do their job, and that they are so much more productive on getting the bad guys off the street and keeping our community safe. We take a lot of pride in that, and Detective Tierney is just one of the examples.
What do you tell the youth of Northport? And I don't mean youth, but you can address this, because we've got some young kids right now, whether it be elementary school, middle school, or early entry into high school, who want to be in law. They want to get into and be a policeman. What would you tell them about how to focus on possibly graduating? And I know we have done this. I know several of our police officers who graduated Northport High School and are now police officers here in town. What would
Right.
you tell those students to start focusing on and really getting themselves geared into to becoming a police officer for Northport?
I'd say keep making the right choices, and stay out of trouble. That definitely helps. We have an Explorer program in a high school, and join that team. They get extra points when they come through the process, so it's a great way to start and get in exposure because let's face it, John. The more people that know you and your work ethic, that you're a compassionate, you have high values, solid values, the more likely you are to get that foot in the door. And that being an explorer really gives that opportunity for a lot of these kids in the high school. And secondly, we're working really hard. Again, this is something the Chiefs had done a great job on. Um, Creating community service aid positions part-time that allows for younger individuals fresh out of high school to apply for it, to kind of get their foot in the door and see if they like that job, see if it's good for them. And lastly, on top of that, we just hired a 19-year-old officer that we lowered the age for hiring officers. So we are reaching the youth of our community. We want to invest in our community and people that grew up here, and and the youth to be able to be part of the department. So we're really excited about those opportunities. That's what I would say to the youth of our that might be listening today.
I'm going to ask you this because there's an interview process that one has to go through. Um, you said stay clean, just don't get yourself in trouble.
Right.
I don't want to highlight trouble. What I want to do is I want you to talk to them real quick.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that? Because going out back and smoking a joint and being 16, it seems to be able to brush it off. Can you talk about the drug early entry of drug use and how that affects somebody who's going through a interview process?
Well, the drug use, and it's such a hard area.
It is.
Obviously, peer pressure. You got to push back on the peer pressure. If someone's trying to get you to try drugs, you've got to push back, and that not only could that destroy your future, that could affect your military. If you ever want to be in the military, that could affect your school grants. If you want to get a scholarship for a university, that could eliminate your opportunity for that. I know what goes on with marijuana with the legality component of, getting a doctors to prescribe it, but I've seen there's still rules to apply with the police department, on drug use, and it could, if you came for this job is spectacular. The benefits we have, City of Northport takes care of us, and we have Cadillac insurance and a wonderful pension when we retire. If you make a decision that's like, what, I'm just going to bend for the peer pressure and do something like, it could affect so many different aspects of your life. So, I mean, I would warn against that. I would warn strongly against that. However, with that being said, people are people, we all make mistakes in life. And as long as we learn from our mistakes and we're honest about our mistakes, a lot of them we're able to overcome those mistakes. That's part of life and part of growth. I make mistakes every day, and I try to learn from them. So, that's, on the other hand, I would say, keep trying to make those right decisions, and it's going to bring you to the right point in your life.
And there's a very few of us who have mastered perfection. Very few. And the ones who say they mastered perfection, don't believe them because there's got to be somebody out there making a mistake. But
right.
I like how you put it, because I've talked to enough of you guys that I understand everything you just said. So clarifying that for someone who's listening now, or someone who has the aspirations to be a police officer, a fireman, or even go into the service. You gotta keep your nose clean. You gotta stay right, and if you don't, you gotta come clean with it, and change things around, and admit what you did, and that is part of this whole process, though, of an interview process for a position with the police department, isn't it?
Yeah, that's part of the interview process, and on top of that, you have the polygraph test, the lie detector test. So you
That's
know
important.
you're asked all those questions anyways, and hopefully you can answer them honestly.
And you're what you're not telling everyone is that once you do it, you're done. But you have to understand that if you're going through a process like that, the easiest way is to not cave, and not let someone push you into something that you feel is a bad decision. And that goes across the board on anything. If you think about it, so we're not just saying it to be a police officer. We're just saying to be a good human. It's
Right.
a lot of times it's hard to take that little sliver of push and prod and say no, I'm not going to do it. Um, we've all lived this through the history of drunk driving, where
Yeah.
back in the day, I got to tell you, we didn't have the rules that we have today, so things were a lot different, and you just had to do things and make adjustments. And I think that same thing happens today because we didn't have legal marijuana when we grew up, and now it's out there. So there's different temptations across the board with everyone. We've got about 3 minutes left. I'm glad we kind of touched on that because the youth needs to hear it, because of everything that's out there.
I
But
agree.
with 3 minutes left, is there anything special that you wanted to add in?
No, John, I love being on the show, and I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what you do for the city. You know, I guess I'd say, if anybody's listening, when they see one of our first responders out there, thank them for a job well done. These guys go through a lot. They have a lot. They see a lot of things that are hurtful, and they try to stay strong, and just keep encouraging them for a job well done.
You bring that in, and there we've got the new mental hospital coming into town. I know that everyone's super excited about having those sides addressed across the board within our community, and I think that's going to be a huge asset. In talking with Chief Titus, he was talking about how they're wrapping their arms around that hospital and being able to have open communications with the firefighters. Are you guys doing the same thing as far as with the police officers and trying to aid and help and at least conversation?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we do that. We do that. We have our peer-to-peer support group. We have our psychologists that we have contracted with the police department. We've done a number of different things that really our peer support and our officer wellness is huge. That's one of our big things. And we have the nonprofit police association that helps as well.
Yep. There's so many things that we have check marks on retention. I think that's a lot of it too. We're advanced looking at different things. Do you feel like there's an area that we need to improve on, or and I'm not saying we're perfection by any stretch of the imagination, because I think you guys are constantly battling to get there, which means that you're never satisfied. And
I think, yeah,
go ahead, go ahead.
no, I think you're right. I think that we're always trying to do better. We're in the public service field, so we're always trying to serve better. We're always trying to say more people do more things, and it's like it ever personally being invested in this, it never feels like it's enough. I'm always trying to do more and more and more to try to help, you know whether it's coming up with grant money for an operation, or like stopping speeders in work zones. You see one person get hurt, and it's always we're always trying to think of different ways to think outside of the box and solve those and keep it safer.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time. I deeply appreciate it, and I love the conversation. Just so everybody understands this was an open conversation. We didn't have a plan. We just jumped right in, and I love these things because they actually turn out exactly like it did, which was a lot of information for the community. Please share it and have a great day. And Captain Fussell, thank you so much for being part of it.
Thank you, John. It's good seeing you again.
Nice seeing you too. Thank you.
Anytime. Thanks.
Y'all have a safe and happy week. We'll see you on Friday.